and welcome back to the Midwife Pip podcast, the home of expert information and real chats on all things pregnancy, birth and beyond. Now, on this week's episode, you are literally just joining a midwife coffee catch-up and chat.
I'm sure anyone listening to this who has experienced birth trauma will know how much it literally eats away at you. Not even just for those first few days, it lasts weeks, months, years.
I'm joined by the lovely Beth Kit, also known for the Bump to Baby chapter on Instagram.
99% of midwives, or 100% of midwives go into the job because they love the profession and they want to do best by women. I think for whatever reason.
Beth and I are midwives who really align in our ethos, our values and our thoughts. So we are just hopping on, no agenda. You're welcome to join us. And we're going to put the world to rights when it comes to the midwifery and birth space, because it's an interesting time to be alive as a midwife at the moment, isn't it, Beth?
It is. It's very, everything is just all up in the air, isn't it? It just all feels so wild and a bit of a scary place for midwives.
It definitely is. And I know,
sure.
We've spoken for years now, Beth, on the importance of empowerment for women and information and education. It's why you and I have a platform out there, and why we do what we do and deliver education in the way that we do. But I feel like we are like midwife lion voices are roaring even louder at the moment, because I think the ethos that we've spoken about for years has just become even more important right now with everything that we're seeing in the maternity system. When you saw some of the reports that have come out, the documentaries that have come out, what were your first thoughts with your midwife head on, Beth?
Oh, so have you, speaking of reports, did you see the one, I think it was last week, that said about how England's cesarean rate has increased substantially, and obviously the usual go-to is it's because of maternal age, BMI raised, extra medical history and things like that for women. But England is an anomaly. So it's not, this is increase in maternal age and BMI and medical history, that's going to be a universal thing, isn't it? But actually it's only England's cesarean rates that have increased. So I think that does show very much so how things are changing so much recently. And I personally, I've got my own kind of ideas on why that is. So the first one is antenatal education. So since COVID, I don't know what it's like locally to you, but from what I see locally to me, and obviously across for the amount of women we speak to on social media, antenatal education for group classes has pretty much gone to nothing. So before COVID, the NHS offered group classes, but it doesn't anymore. I don't know if it's the same for you, Pip, in your area, and you hear the same, but it's like that type of antenatal education is very much dropping. And we know, one of the best research, antenatal education is so well researched, isn't it? And it's so consistent in those that do antenatal education are less likely to have cesarean, less likely to have instrumental births, less likely to choose things like epidural and diamorphine. Not that it's about pain relief, but I think that does just show how much of a strong impact antenatal education can have.
And Beth, do you know what? I think this is perhaps a bit controversial, but I feel like we just need to be really honest with families and really honest with women and say that the NHS is fantastic at delivering that emergency care, that life-saving care. It is so phenomenal. But the reality is, and I think what my takeaway message really for families out of all of the stuff that's out there at the moment is that the support, the information gathering, the kind of empowerment, the more holistic preparation as opposed to the antenatal checks and that physical stuff, that's on the shoulders of families now. There is no one coming to save you at your 36-week appointment with all the information. It's too little too late. that is your responsibility.
Yeah.
Whether that's right or wrong is like a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
But I think if you're just really
I
honest,
agree.
no one's coming to save you with that information in your standard care. It is on your shoulders to seek that out, to explore that in whatever way you wish.
Yeah. Well, my whole job really as a community midwife seems to be risk assessment. Like from literally booking, I am risk assessing, safeguarding, whether you're going to have a small baby, whether you're going to develop preeclampsia, whether you're going to have a blood clot. Like those are like my main
and they're important,
things.
aren't they? They're so important. We don't want
So
to miss
important.
them. But you have no time for anything else once you've gone through those things, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that booking appointment in itself is like an hour and a half, and it's just so intense. And there is a little question about birth. It's how do you feel? What was your previous experiences like? How do you feel about imagining yourself giving birth? But at that time, women are like, giving birth what? Like, I just want my 12-week scan. Like, you always are just looking at that next bit that is important to you. And then as the pregnancy progresses, it becomes the same with just screening, blood pressure, dip your urine, carbon monoxide, measuring your bump. Have you had your glucose tolerance test if you need one? Like, are you taking your aspirin? Are you taking your iron? Like, we're forever managing the safety aspect, to the point then that kind of that low risk midwifery care that is so important for women and their mental health postnatally, how they bond with their baby, how they feel stepping into motherhood. Like, your birth is like your transition, isn't it? And you can either feel like you can climb Mount Everest after, or you feel so vulnerable and what happened, why did that go like that, why, you have your postnatal time then thinking of all the things that maybe you could have done, should have done, was that right? And that's how you start motherhood. But yet that is so undervalued in the maternity system, and even for women. Sorry,
I was just going to say, and there's nothing worse in my eyes of women going through this enormous thing, right, of growing life and birthing life, and then living on with feelings of regret or what if, or I wish I'd done this differently. Like, this time is too important, isn't it, to have those feelings and thoughts attached to it. Like, we get one shot at each experience. Like, we deserve to know that we've really given it our all, and stack those odds in our favor, right, of achieving those things that we want.
Yeah, it does. If you've had, I'm sure anyone listening to this who has experienced birth trauma will know how much it literally eats away at you. Not even just for those first few days, it lasts weeks, months, years. You think of it, even now, my 10-year-old, my third birth was, it just left me with more trauma basically than what I had with my other three. My other three births were very straightforward. My third, I had those feelings of, did I do something wrong? Should I have said this? Should I have said that? And even now when she's 10, I still think, I wonder if that would be different if I didn't feel so anxious postnatally. Like, I always put even experiences now back to, was that birth related?
It impacts you forever, doesn't it?
It's crazy, isn't it?
So much more than one day. And I think where we've kind of got to in today's world of birth preparation is it's become like a tick box thing of like, done my class, done my course, off we go. And the reality is, like, maternity, walking into birth, it is a jungle, and we are not going to be prepared by just having that one tool, tick the box by attending. Like, birth preparation requires practice. It's hard. Like, let's just be honest, it's hard work. Like, if you're proactively preparing, then that is work and that is effort, because labor is hard and postpartum is hard, and it's totally individual as to how much effort we want to put into that. And of course there's no right or wrong, but if you are someone that's like, no, I really want to stack the odds in my favor, I really want to have that positive birth experience, then ticking the box isn't going to cut it. Like, we need to use pregnancy as our opportunity to prepare and to train for this huge event, because like you say, it does impact you forever. You don't just kind of get through it and then it's gone and the baby's here. It impacts what all of that fourth trimester looks like.
Yeah, massively. And even things like I hear a lot when women speak about birth prep, I hear women say, well, I just trust the midwife at the time. Like, the midwife will tell me. And whilst that is true, and I 100% think that everybody should trust their midwife, the midwives are there to support you and they also want the best for you as well. But sometimes I think that there is like a level of assumption. Like, midwives will say things, oh, you happy if you have your waters broke, or are you happy to have an FSC on? And I think if that's the first time that you are hearing that information, often there can always be time, but often you need time to think about it. But actually, if you know already what it involves having your waters broke, what an FSC is, do you want vaginal examinations? Do you want gas air? Do you want an epidural? Like, you can't just make those decisions ad hoc at the time, because all of them have consequences. Absolutely. Don't they?
And I think we have to remember that hospitals have protocols and guidelines in place for a really valid reason. Like, otherwise everyone would just be doing what on earth they wanted, and that clearly wouldn't work. So guidelines have their place, but they are guidelines and not laws. And what we see, don't we? Like, so much, if I think back to like a decade ago in the system, people like birthed by the guidelines and there was very little deviation from that. We are now in this brilliant, more exciting space where more commonly women are birthing outside of these guidelines. And that doesn't mean that you're in a black book or you're being naughty or you're doing something you shouldn't. Actually, it means you're having properly individualized care, which is exactly what it should be. But it is near impossible to have that individualized care if you don't have the information to know what deviations from guidelines might be available and appropriate to you, and you know what questions to ask and how to have the conversations. And I think in the year of 2026, it's no longer enough for families to just know about the stages of labour, pain relief options, positions to be in. We also need to know how to navigate a system that has got bed capacity issues, is stretched in different ways. And we have to think, okay, is this decision really the best decision for me and my baby? Or is it the logistics of everything else going on that might be influencing that choice right now? And it's without that knowledge, it's impossible to do that. And you are then just at the mercy of whoever you happen to meet on that day. And for me, as a mum and as a midwife, that gamble just feels way too high with something as important as birthing our babies, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you're so right in saying that it's what kind of midwife you're going to have on that day and what kind of obstetrician, because I also think that even though I truly believe that 99% of midwives or 100% of midwives go into the job because they love the profession and they want to do best by women, I think for whatever reason, midwives, whether they're burnt out, whether they've got other things going on, whether it's they're newly qualified, whether they're old school midwives, I think sometimes it very much depends on how your birth experience is, sometimes how kind of proactive your midwife is. And I know that actually hurts me to say that, but it is true, and it's the reality of it.
And I think just by human nature, Beth, like if we all went to a party, we're not all going to get on with absolutely everyone at that party. Like it is exactly the same. Like you may just have someone who your personalities aren't completely aligned, and that's just being human, isn't it, at the end of the day as well?
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that in the NHS, as a midwife, you are receiving the whole population. I mean, majority of women, to a certain age, you get a whole spread of different women from different cultures, social class, education, and the midwife has to kind of gauge where you fit on what you want from your birth. And I do think sometimes midwives do get that wrong as well.
And I think one of the first things that maybe we would look at to gauge that idea is a birth plan. And the really hard thing for midwives right now, Beth, is that everyone's birth plan is the same. Like it is all just the normal stuff, minimal intervention, minimal pain relief, So unhelpful for us because we know that equates to about 4 to 5% of births. So the bigger question for me whenever I'm talking to pregnant families is not what type of birth you want, but what are you doing to stack the odds in your favor of achieving that? because that doesn't happen on the
Yeah,
day of birth.
definitely.
That's what's built throughout the months
Yeah.
ahead of birth. And that's what
Yeah.
responsibility sits with the women and their families in today's
Yeah.
world.
100%. I also think as well, when women are wanting a water birth, or they want a vaginal birth, or they want an elective cesarean, I think they're not necessarily choosing that. They're choosing control.
100%.
And I think sometimes it's re-looking at that situation and saying, you want that water birth because you know that water birth means that you're going to feel calmer in there, but actually don't put all of your coping strategies in something that actually could not be available on that day, and know that what you're trying to achieve there, because it's not necessarily a water birth that you're trying to achieve, you're trying to achieve calmness. You can get that calmness through your breathing techniques, your mindset, your visualizations, knowing what you can do to set the odds in your favor to get the birth that you want. But I think it's making sure that women know that their like calmness doesn't lie within the water. Like it can be anywhere.
Definitely.
Type thing.
And like we see that, don't we? Because we'll see women that will get in water and be like, actually, this feels awful, and this is all I planned for. So now what do I do? We see women that have what on paper is the most straightforward, smooth water birth, but come away from it with trauma. We see women that have the most complicated birth and come away and we're like, that was phenomenal. I made such empowered, informed choices. And on paper, we're like, really? You know, you had all the things that people would typically want to avoid.
You had a general anaesthetic, a cesarean, a manual removal.
I made those choices. I felt in control. I felt informed. And that is what is protective, isn't it? It's not the type of birth. It's not in water, on land, epidural or not, home or hospital. It is how you feel. And that feeling really comes from the work you do before that day ahead of time.
Yeah, 100%. Going back to as well that cesarean report thing, I think another a contributing factor, and I haven't quite decided how it contributes yet, but I do feel like it all kind of correlates with lockdown. So actually my first thing was trauma. I think women who had a lot of trauma, didn't they, with their first births, and now second time around they're looking again to gain like more control, and sometimes cesarean can be that way, even if it's an emergency cesarean. I think women are more likely now, because of previous trauma, if something is not going quite right early on in their labour, I think women are more likely to be like, actually, yeah, I'll have a cesarean. I don't want it going the same way as it did in COVID. But also social media, since COVID has rocketed, hasn't it? And I think that there is so much good information out there on social media, you know, education. Like you said earlier, we use our platforms to educate women and help them achieve a positive birth. But there's also so much scaremongering. Like nowadays, if your hospital was under a report, you wouldn't really know. Like you wouldn't know that information but now it's plastered all over social media. Everyone's got an opinion on it. It's being shared far and wide. You don't know just about your local hospital, but you know about the 8 different hospitals across the UK, or you know about what's going on across the UK. And I think that has to contribute to the amount of fear that women have going into labour, the lack of trust on maternity services. So again, when things start to deviate, the safest option, I think, for lots of women is, I just want this safe, like just get my baby out in whatever way possible.
And I think it's so multifaceted, isn't it, Beth? Because when you think like what you're saying there, we've got this lack of preparation. So we have more births that are felt as traumatic for women. We then have the media telling us that the whole of the maternity system is now really unsafe and childbirth is suddenly really dangerous. I know that's not necessarily the headline, but that is exactly what it's getting at, isn't it? Like with everything that's being bombarded at women. We've then got women talk. So women share their stories. And so your friends and family are telling you all about their birth trauma stories that, like we said, probably have come from that lack of preparation, as opposed to the situation in the maternity system. So we've got this like big cycle of poor preparation, being bombarded with fear, but no place to actually unpick that and get information on it. And then this rising section rate. So women think, well, if I'm going to have one anywhere, I might as well just go in at that place. And then what we don't talk about is what we're going to see in probably about 4 years' time, where we have all of these rises in complications as a result of our high cesarean section rate, because a cesarean section does have consequences. And I think, yes, we say to women, you know, yes, it's major abdominal surgery, you've got your risks of bleeding and infection and damage to surrounding organs, but then if people choose to have more children, we've then got adhesions and scar tissues and a much more complicated surgery. We have placentas that we used to, like, certainly when I was a student, Beth, I remember I saw like 1 or 2 abnormally invasive placentas in my whole career, like in my whole student 3 years. Now we have clinics set up for abnormally invasive placentas because they're becoming more commonplace, because we're having more cesareans. And these conversations aren't had with women until they find themselves in this place where they've now got a really seriously high risk pregnancy from a decision that was made from a place of fear, not a place of empowerment. And
exactly.
Not like we both believe in cesareans being a fantastic form of birth. It's not anti-cesarean, but it's anti having a cesarean because you're making it from a place of fear rather than a place of balanced, informed choice, I think, is what's the kind of, I guess, the missing piece that I see with women.
Yeah, and then also how the fear then will it impact your birth anyway. So it doesn't just impact like your choices that you're making, it actually is impacting your hormones that are being released because you are not feeling safe. So then your body is just going to be like, well, of course we can't, we need to stall our birth because we're not in a safe place. And then contractions slow down, cervixes don't dilate as well because we are feeling fear because of all of this media negativity around maternity services. And I don't think it's just the media that contributes to poor the poor light of maternity services, because there's a lot, like the amount of misinformation I see on social media from people who have no insight into maternity services and who have no training in anything beyond hypnobirthing, which if you've trained in hypnobirthing, all you should be teaching women is breathing techniques, mindset, visualization, maybe a tool to kind of make choices, but no way should you be educating women on membrane sweeps, because like what do you know about, have you done a membrane sweep? Have you had to counsel a woman for membrane sweep? Have you even had one yourself? Like, you know, it's crazy. And one of the things that I see at the moment is infection. So the NICE guidelines don't report infection as a risk of membrane sweep. So it's not in NICE guidelines, it's not listed as a risk in NICE guidelines. Also, when you look at the Cochrane review, there was loads, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was loads of randomized controlled trials that compared sweeps with people who didn't have sweeps, and then compared temperatures as like a landmark for infection, and it didn't show that it increased temperatures. And I know, like, I understand that there is going to be a theoretical risk of an infection because you're having a hand inside your vagina, more so than maybe what you would have. But if that risk doesn't show itself in evidence, then we shouldn't on social media be saying to women, you're more likely to get infection if you have a sweep, as a way to discourage them from having a sweep, because those same people who fight that battle are the same people that say that midwives and obstetricians they don't give their information in a research-based way,
that they're like biased or trying to enforce something.
And I keep seeing it so much, specifically with infection and sweeps.
It's messy, isn't it, Beth? I think it's really messy. And I think I guess the bare bones of it is that we are in a place where women desperately need information support, because like we said, they are bearing the responsibility of gathering that themselves. No one is coming to rescue them with that in the standard system. Naturally, we all have social media, Google, I don't know, chat GPT is on our phones 24/7.
Yeah.
And I honestly think if I wasn't a midwife and I was navigating this system, I would probably be doing exactly the same, because where else do you go?
100%.
What we're not
Yeah.
transparent about is the fact that, and I know the sleep industry has been beautifully, thank goodness at long last, brought to light, but the birth industry
Yeah.
is exactly the same with regards to regulation. So you have people like you and I that are
Yes.
midwives, we're on the Nursing Midwifery Council register, we pay for our insurance and our revalidation, and we have to prove that we can do, you know, XYZ. We are heavily regulated. If Beth or I put something out there that's not evidence-based, that isn't in the benefit of women, that goes against our professional code of conduct, we are removed from the register. Like, it is a serious thing.
Yeah.
So we take that
We'd
serious.
be up for a tribunal.
We'll be in court. We take that really seriously. So we have us.
Yeah.
And then there is this whole other space of people that have done a course that maybe a few days, a few hours, a weekend, maybe a week long. And then they're informing families about the most important day of their life. And I think we have to know that there is so many names, like, you know, we've both done our diploma in hypnobirthing. We love it. It's not saying it's not good, but hypnobirthing teachers, birth workers, antenatal educators, doulas, these people are not medically trained. So they should not be giving you medical advice. And I think what we see, and actually it came out in the HSIB report like 4 years ago, was the importance of regulation, because there was a correlation between unregulated birth support, where it might be stepping outside of scope of practice, and an increase in brain injuries for babies. And that highlights like the seriousness of this. Like, we shouldn't be educating women about pregnancy and birth. This isn't just like what to wear when you're going on a night out. This is the birth of your baby. This is life and death. This is like morbidity and long-term complications, physical injury, psychological injury. Like, that needs to come from someone that is regulated and qualified. And I've seen, like you were saying, Beth, on social media, I've seen so much of the similar kind of thing. And I guess that, like, clickbait, those hooks, we see it, don't we? Like, either an influencer or someone gets great marketing budget or endorsement or whatever, and then all of a sudden they have this massive platform, and then we're just putting up like clickbait hooks left, right and center. And I saw one recently that, I mean, I don't tend to engage in social media, but I ended up replying because as a pelvic health specialist, it frustrated me enormously. It was about when you're in the pushing stage of labor, it implied that your midwife or obstetrician essentially is like, right, you're pushing, so the clock has started. And if you haven't birthed your baby in, you know, an hour or this like set mandatory generalized time, then you're having forceps or we're pulling your baby out. And it was like this really surface level anti-medicalization idea. And I was like, my comment was about the pelvic health implications. Like, yes, I wouldn't recommend a woman pushed for 3 hours just to achieve an unassisted vaginal birth. If she wanted to and she made that informed choice, then absolutely I would support her. But it's also as important as saying, yes, we don't recommend pushing for hours and hours, understanding why. And I think we are so surface level with the nature of social media that women never understand the why. So I was talking about the fact that, you know, I see women in clinic that have had maybe 3-hour second stages of labor, and then they have long-term pelvic health complications. They've got a prolapse, you know, that they end up having surgery for in 5 years' time, or they're now living with incontinence and are struggling to get back to those things that supported their mental well-being. And there's nothing is black and white in this world. And I think the less regulated the practitioner, the more black and white or kind of right wing we make it. And I know you and I really believe in that grey area, and that's where empowerment
that
comes
nuance,
from.
Isn't it?
But you can't explore that grey area without proper experience. And I think that's what I see anyway when I try to avoid scrolling, Beth, to be honest.
No, I'm the same, because with like even that hour, like, because there is, isn't there? There is an element of time on pushing, but that's that guideline, because it is just a guideline, is there to support, like you said, your long-term pelvic health. But equally, you know, if we can see like a lot of vertex at pushing, it's not going to be like, right, forceps. Like it's your baby's progressing really well. Let's continue with this, like the plan, if that's what you want to. But I saw a crazy one as well, where it said there was some evidence that said that free birthers have less blood loss compared to hospital births.
You can't measure it.
And this, oh my, so you know the point straight away, Pip. But I commented again. I made the mistake of commenting because there was a part of me just thought, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, like really shocked in these comments that free birthers have less blood loss. And I was like, well, who's measuring that blood loss at home? Because in the hospital, we actually use scales and we weigh it. So who's doing it? Is that the dad? Is the dad getting his bread scales out
how
to
much
weigh
the
that?
leaves weighed versus the leaves with and without the blood?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is he taking away the blankets, the weight of the blanket? Like, what the hell?
Like, this stuff, like, we're laughing about it, Beth, because it's, to you and I, it is so ridiculous. Like, it is so unsafe. It is so, it's just so, it shouldn't, but it's existing. And that's what women are seeing. And yes, we've got all of this training that allows us to go, oh my goodness, we know this is how we do it. And there's no way that's replicable in a free birth situation. But women don't know how we do it. So they don't know that it's not replicable. So that they take that as face value. And I would as well if I didn't have my experience. So I get it. And that's why it's dangerous.
Because the argument was, as obviously I got replies back to my comment where I said, oh, who's weighing this? Like, it's not really comparable. And the argument was that obviously nobody felt like that they needed to seek medical care for their blood loss during a free birth situation. And I was like, and I just was thinking, well, that's actually firstly not correct, because just because that woman is not feeling like she needs to seek medical advice then doesn't mean that her HB is not 70.
Life-threatening hemorrhage, but she's going to be anemic for the next 10 years, depleting her ferritin, and then wonder why she's exhausted premenopause.
Yeah, and she's going to feel exhausted. But also, like, that's still not the point. Like, that's measuring whether someone feels like they need to seek medical advice, not saying that free birthers bleed less. And they might do, they might bleed less at home.
But fake title, isn't it? That actually is so surface level that it's really skewed and not accurate. And it's really scary, isn't it? It's really, really scary. And I mean, we get messages, don't we, all the time, Beth? I know we've spoken about this privately before, from people that have done really well-known birth courses, and there are a couple that will spring to you and I's mind that everyone just kind of knows about, and they can be wonderful for meeting friends and things like that locally, but the quality of education is very much substandard and is delivered by people that are, for the majority, not qualified, not regulated, but great marketing, big platforms, no names, so instantly we trust it. And sometimes women will then actually go into birth feeling pretty well prepared, because they are sold this really easy to teach idea of birth as opposed to the realities of birth. And then you and I get flooded with messages with second pregnancy saying, it was so traumatic, I was so poorly prepared, even though I ticked those boxes, what do I do? And it's frustrating for you and I, because those women should never have been put in that situation, but we see it every single day.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really important as well to highlight that actually there is a place for hypnobirthing teachers, and there is a place for doulas, because doulas at birth can be shown to have better outcomes as well, can't they? Like a doula at birth. But it's also it's everyone needs to kind of stay in what they're good at. So like the doulas should be supporting coping strategies and techniques and change of positions and like that type of stuff. And then midwives are kind of doing a little bit of that as well, but also like constantly risk assessing, promoting normality,
medical advice and care. And
yeah, exactly. But we shouldn't have like doulas saying actually that baby's heart rate's normal.
Well, you don't
like
need
that's
to go into
totally
hospital, or you don't need to follow that advice.
Yeah.
So I think, like you say, doulas can have such a brilliant impact when used to what they're meant to be, right, in the birth space. They are a professional birth support or a professional birth partner, and they can provide you with some of that continuity depending on what's important to you and what kind of, you know, packages, etc., you come up with your doula. They've absolutely got their place, but I think what's perhaps not clear out there is that a doula and a midwife are very different, and they can complement each other and work together really brilliantly, but one doesn't replace the other. We shouldn't be taking medical advice from a doula over our midwives. We can absolutely have, you know, conversations and things like that, but I think that's what we see, where actually it then becomes dangerous, and then it gives a bad name to the doulas that are doing a great job, because they've got some road people that are deciding that they're going to manage birth themselves, or say to women, no, you don't need to do this, or you don't need to do that, and actually that isn't their place.
Because it's the same as if, as a midwife, I would never look at a scan for a small baby and be like, oh no, I don't think that you don't need to have,
you don't need monitoring.
Your baby's not small. Or like somebody with gestational diabetes and obscure blood sugars or blood results, I would never be like, oh no, you can just ignore, like, don't worry about that, like
tonight, you'll be fine.
Like I would never encroach on an obstetrician's advice. I would still say, oh, I would ask this question, like see,
I guess professional challenge and curiosity is fantastic. Like, we want that, don't we? That's powerful.
And I would always, like, working with a doula, I would always accept that same professional challenge, like advocate for that woman. And if I had, you know, then it's like an open conversation. But I do think it's really important for us all to kind of know where our strengths lies and where our boundaries 100%.
are. And I think, like, in practice, I've had women that are being supported by a doula, and they'll say, oh, Pip, can you explain to her why you're recommending that? And I'm like, yeah, of course, like, brilliant, let's have that conversation, as opposed to, no, she doesn't want that. And you're like, well, hang on a minute, because A, I'm not taking consent from you, and B, I need to know that she's making an informed choice. And if she then decides she doesn't want that, perfect, absolutely grand, but I'm not just going to take that from my doula said don't, because that's not safe care.
Because that's the same as a partner, exactly, in that situation. We could never say, oh, if the partner said, oh, she doesn't want an epidural, we would never be like, having one, oh, okay, exactly, you don't need, like, it's the same, isn't it?
Exactly the same. It's exactly the same. And I think it's just understanding what those rules are. And I think for women, whenever you're looking at information online, know that it's generalized. Like, it has to be generalized to the general population, and that's should never be your whole scope of preparation. Probably shouldn't just be Instagram or TikTok. Like, it needs to be specified to you, because we're all different. We all want different things. We're all going to have different births. I've never seen a birth the same, and I've been a midwife 15 years. Like, they're all different, aren't they? So knowing that it's going to be generalized, and then thinking, who's this information from? And actually, don't be afraid if you are looking to part with time or money or resource or effort with anybody. Ask them what their qualifications are and what that means. If you don't understand what it means, if it's just loads of, like, fancy letters, understand what that actually means. And then if you're not sure, I mean, me and Beth, I'm sure we'd both be very happy for you to be like, this person says there are da da da. What does that actually mean? Because sometimes we've got these fancy names, haven't we? And then it sounds like, oh, well, they must be top notch because they've got all these letters. And actually, it means a very short course, for example.
Very little. Yeah, exactly. But I even have it in my community midwife appointments. I'll have women come in and say, oh, I've seen on TikTok that when your baby's born in a cesarean, the baby goes into a different room. Or like us, or you know, like the Portlands as an example. I don't know if they still do it, but I remember watching a program on the Portlands, and their babies all go into a nursery, don't they? So I've had women say to me, from things that they've seen on TikTok and social media, oh, so when my baby does this, I'm like, oh wait, whoa, where are you getting that information from? So, like, I think it's important to, if there's anything that you see on social media that makes you think, is that actually right? Like, make sure you write it down, because it would be the worst thing for it to come up in your labor and then it cause you unnecessary anxiety when it's actually probably not true, or there's a reason behind it that you know, FSEs are another good one. Like I've done a video recently on FSC, and I know that midwives notoriously call it a little clip, which I agree that we shouldn't be calling an FSC a little clip. It is like the top of a needle, isn't it? Almost, it's a circle, goes underneath the skin of baby's head, baby's skull. But the comments on that as well are like, absolutely not. I would no way put that on my baby. And it's like, wait, it could actually be really beneficial for you. Like it could also not be, but it could be.
Yeah, it could be. It could be the thing that stops you lying flat on your back in a bed and then going for a cesarean section because your labour hasn't progressed. And of course it hasn't, because you've been laid flat on your back in bed.
It's so.
And I think as soon as we're making any choice because we feel scared of it, because we've seen one thing from one person, we need to just pause and reflect on that, because we are very likely not making a properly informed choice. And I think the thing I
100%.
always say to families, Beth, and the families that I support, we sit down and we're like, okay, what are the things that you're really scared of? And the common things come up, you know, the induction, the forceps, the emergency cesarean, perhaps an interrupted golden hour if baby's taken away. What are the things we're really scared of? Now we're going to plan for those. So we're going to plan, how do we stack the odds in your favor of those not happening? And then how are we going to navigate that time? And what are we going to do to make sure that if that thing that currently you're scared of crops up, you feel in control, you know what questions to ask, you've got confidence in navigating it. And I think that tactic alone is about 1,000 times more helpful than the generic birth plan template that everyone comes to.
100%.
It's unhelpful.
Like induction is a great example of that, isn't it? Because actually, if you're scared of having an induction, then when you're 41 weeks pregnant, you're probably not going to go into spontaneous labour because you're so stressed about impending induction, when actually if you make a plan for it, you're immediately removing that fear, which means that you're more likely to go into labour anyway. But also if you do end up having an induction, you're fine about it. Or you can decline it, but you're declining it when fear is not a contributing factor.
And I think with something so like induction, forceps, if we say to women, why are you scared of it? It's almost always something they've seen online or experiences of friends or families. And again, that highlights, because we're not informing families. Like if you had really robust antenatal education through your pregnancy, you felt really well informed on all of this stuff, your friend's experience wouldn't trigger you, I highly doubt, in the same way it does when you have no idea about anything. All you've got is other people's highlight reel, as opposed to actually really understanding, what are forceps? Why are they used? Like, in what circumstances would I consent to them versus would I want an option? One of the ones that comes up all the time, Beth, doesn't it, is if I'm offered forceps, I will have a cesarean instead. And my goodness, I wish maternity care was that simple. But actually, we know as midwives, a cesarean section in the final stages of labour is not the same as a cesarean section at any other stage. The risks look very different for you and baby.
The risks look very different. And sometimes it isn't
like,
necessary.
Oh, okay. So actually we could do this with the forceps and it's more likely to be smooth and da-da-da. And you're like, yeah, we've got it. It's information. It's information that we're not starved of, because like we said, it's everywhere, but proper, accurate information that's evidence-based and in depth and tailored to families, we are starved of. And we're just overwhelmed with all of this generic surface level noise, really.
Hooks.
Viral hooks, clever marketing, investment into not into regulated people, but just into a business approach, I suppose, as opposed to a family, women-centered approach. And we're midwives, Beth. We're never going to be the best at marketing or all of that jazz.
That's what I feel all the time. I feel like that all the time. I'm like, I've got loads of information to give you. Like, I just don't know how to get it out the best way.
And I think the thing I often feel, Beth, is like, yes, this would be really great information, but I can't put it on my social media if it's not going to be applicable to everybody. And then you end up diluting it so much that then I'm like, we've missed that really key point that's going to be really important to that group of people. And that's our midwife brain, because we've got that ethical responsibility, I guess, that doesn't exist everywhere, clearly.
we're thinking, how is this going to apply to all different people? And then we're trying to add our nuance in. And then it's like, oh, that didn't hit the same.
Because I can
That's
just
not
put a
going to
viral hook
be
and
watched.
then it's nuts that we have got to a place where, you know, we live and breathe birth, pregnancy, don't we, Beth? So this probably hits our souls in a way. Maybe it doesn't everyone. I don't know if we're biased, but the most important day of our life, like the stakes are never higher than bringing your baby into the world, what your body as a woman has to go through. And the fact that our source of support and information for that is social media, I don't understand. Like, I have no words. I don't understand how we've diluted it to that place.
Yeah, same. And like, if you compare it to like a wedding day, you spend like tens of thousands, some people do, don't they? You have somebody specific to do your food, you have somebody specific to design your dress, your flowers, like you have so many different professional people's input,
the best, don't you, from all those different areas.
Yeah, but arguably your birth is like 10 times more important. Well, I'm biased because I'm not actually married, but
I nipped off to a registry office pregnant.
Oh, did you?
For like 15 weeks. Because we've been together over a decade, and I was like, we were engaged, and I was like, let's just use COVID as an excuse to get married. But I think, but the point is so valid, isn't it? Because we want, like, we do that for a wedding day. If you're not Beth and I, obviously, we're a really poor example, because you want those lifelong memories, and that's not wrong. That's beautiful. That's lovely. But the reality is, like, if someone drops the cake on the wedding day, you're going to be devastated at the time, but you can guarantee in 10 years time you will laugh about that. A similar mishap, I suppose, during birth, you are never going to laugh about that. Trauma will still be raw 10 years later. Like, the stakes are so much higher, and you wouldn't
so much higher
like,
your health
just do the cake for me, will you? Or just seams dress my dress up because you're part of the team. Like, we expect to have experts with different like expertise in those areas,
like specialities.
The same from birth. We're happy to have somebody that is poorly qualified, has done a quick course, has just got some like pretty colors or clickbait hooks, and we're like, oh, they've got a big following, so they know what they're talking about. Like, you wouldn't choose your venue or your dress or your flowers based on the size of someone's following or how pretty their reels looked. You would want to know they were good.
It's crazy,
like,
isn't it?
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. But equally, I just totally get it, because, like I said before, like, I think I would be doing the same. Like, if I didn't have the knowledge I've got, because where else do you go? And I know, like, you and I obviously do support families privately, but we are small. We're brilliant fish, Beth, but we are small fish in a big murky pond of like mess, unregulation. It's tricky.
But also it's the time as well, isn't it? Because like I still do I do 2 or 3 days in my NHS, and I do that because I want, I want to still be with women in the NHS, but then also that's massively then diluting my time for my bump to baby. And I think, should I not do my NHS anymore? Like, I'm forever, and I did go through a time actually where I didn't do my NHS, but I'm forever in that cycle of like, do I keep putting my time there, or do I give more to my bump to baby, because I know that would have a bigger impact to more women.
Which is the ironic thing, isn't it? It's the really ironic thing, like, I'd been a delivery suite sister for years, Beth, and I guess I kind of thought, if you're in a senior position like that, surely you can make a really big impact to the women coming through that service, even if it's just those women on that day. And I'm really optimistic. I'm quite a glass half full kind of girl. So I was just really optimistic. And like, don't get me wrong, I really tried, Beth. We rearranged the rooms. We had rebozo ropes everywhere. And you realise that is such a tip of the iceberg moment. And that no matter how wonderful we are in that moment, what's happened prior, what preparation that family has done, what knowledge they've got before they come through our doors is always going to be so much more powerful. always,
Yeah.
than that
100%.
one thing you do on that day. Because if you've got a baby in a beautiful position and nicely balanced pelvis, then things are just going to be 80% easier than if you come in and then we're trying to do all that work whilst you're in labor, whilst we've got XYZ going on. It's 1,000 times harder with the best will in the world. With the constraints of time and, you know, resource and all of that stuff as well. So I totally get it. It's a really tricky one. Beth, one of the other things, I mean, clearly we could just talk all day, to be honest, but one of the other things I'm really interested to get people's views on is, it's out there, isn't it? The Panorama documentary, you turn on the news, it's, you know, it's over social, it's everywhere, is the investigations into loads of different parts of the maternity system. You know, yes, there are some specific trusts names, but I think we get in the idea now that the grass isn't greener, and it's generally quite a blanket thing that the NHS maternity system is stretched, both from a women's experiences angle and from a midwives care and well-being angle. I think we're seeing that whole picture. How do you feel about pregnant women that are pregnant at the moment, or maybe have brand new babies, watching these documentaries, these news things? What are your kind of thoughts? I know there's no right or wrong, but I just think it's really interesting to hear what people think.
So I don't think women should watch the panoramas. I don't think it's going to add any kind of benefit and value to you. It's like getting on an aeroplane and just exposing yourself to planes crashing. Like you wouldn't do it, would you? You wouldn't. You just wouldn't do it. You'll get a CQC report, and then, or you get a CQC visit, and then 12. I actually don't fully know these timelines, but I know it's like quite a long distance. But like as an example, you might get the report a year later, and then that report goes to the hospital, but the media doesn't maybe know about it. It's not published yet. So in the meantime, the hospital is making all of these amazing changes. And then 9 months later, it goes out to media. So the media are reporting on something of a visit that happens maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that actually a lot of the time, women, so I have this a lot when I'm as a community midwife, I'll have women say, I'm really worried about the state of maternity services. And then I say, well, how did your birth go 3 years ago? And they were like, oh my gosh, I had the best care. And I was like, well, that was when the report was done. It was done on that time, and you had great care. So don't go on what you are seeing in the media. Go for what you have experienced. But yeah, I don't think it's helpful. I think it's important to want to support midwives, and if you want to be somebody who wants to support midwives, you know, there's a lot at the moment on staff shortages, midwives not getting breaks, all of kind of that. But it's great if you want to support that, but I think you can support that after you've had your baby. I personally just don't think that it's helpful. It's going to raise your adrenaline in your body. Your nervous system's going to be fired. Like, you want to feel chill and calm in pregnancy and have good people around you. But what's your thoughts? I don't know.
Sit on the fence with it, Beth, because I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. And I totally get that there's nothing wrong with protecting your own space and your own bubble during pregnancy. But I am of the brain where if I put myself in, you know, just a pregnant woman's shoes without midwifery knowledge and saw everything I was, or heard everything I was seeing, because I think that's the key thing. Whether you engage in it, whether you watch it, whether you view it or not, you know it's happening. And for me, it's worse to sort of know the noise is there and not really know what's being talked about than to open the box and be like, right, this is what it is. Let's try and understand it and deal with it. While still recognizing that often we are just getting headlines and other people's opinions and stories. And I think that's really important to always like keep that context. But I'm someone who would find it more triggering, kind of knowing there was almost like the elephant in the room, but not really understanding it, or feeling like I was kind of just not up to speed in the same way, like I was almost having something hidden from me. And I think the reports are clearly needed. They're clearly really important. My goodness, what families have gone through.
Yes, definitely.
It's heartbreaking. It's not surprising. Like, you know, as people have been in
Yeah.
the system for a long time, it's not surprising. It's heartbreaking. And I think me and my colleagues have said this, Beth, I'm sure that you have as well in your time. Like, it was always going to need to get really bad before any change happened, because women's health is always kind of pushed to the bottom. It's always swept in the corner. We are known for people that just put up with it and get on with it. And so it was really going to take big, loud voices, big stories, tragedy to create change. And so I welcome it in terms of let's hope, let's pray this is a cornerstone in maternity system, because otherwise I really worry what it will look like for our children's generation. Like, what on earth? It's not sustainable. Everyone knows that. So I welcome the fact that we're not treating expectant families, pregnant women, like vulnerable people that need kind of protecting. We're actually being like, this is the honest playing field. But I think what's really critical is then we support women to digest that, to know what's applicable to them, to understand the nuances, what's maybe a little bit clickbait versus the realities, what's being done. Like you say, these things happen, there's an investigation, what's been put in place. I think that's the important part that we then need to take away from it if we are engaging. So I think it probably really depends on your personality, right? And your brain.
I think it's what you're going to do with that information. If you're just going to sit there at midnight scrolling on your phone, consuming all of this negativity, I think that is not going to do you any favors. If you're someone that reads about your local hospital and then actually looks and does your own kind of digging to see when that report was done, what was it based on, what did they actually fail for? Was it women's experiences, or was it that their documentation wasn't in line, or they hadn't got the evidence, or like what made that service fail? I think that is a totally different, that would probably make you feel empowered. But I think if you're a consumer who's going to just consume all the headlines and sit and like feel all that anxious, I just think it's not the
and
one.
I think the time that you go into it as well, like if you go into it being like, I'm really like, I definitely do this if I'm anxious or I've got loads on, like on those days where I'm like, oh my gosh, the to-do list is overwhelming, what I'll do, Beth, is decide that that's the day to also tidy up the porch, clean out the cupboard, batch cook 8 meals for the week. Like, I am that self-sabotage anxiety person. Whereas if you're going into it where you're like, okay, I feel really calm today, I want to prepare for birth, I want to understand what everyone's kind of hushing and talking about in a really balanced way, and then I'm going to sit with someone and make a plan so that I feel safe and I still feel like I'm protecting my bubble. I think the way that we engage, even from our mindset on the onset, makes a big difference as well.
Oh, definitely, 100%. But it is so personal, isn't it? Like, I also don't think it's healthy to fully put your head in the sand about it and just pretend that everything is all, and you're going to be able to rock up on the day and have, you know, have great care, have access to everything that you want. Like, I think that is also not helpful either.
Let's not go with the flow or hope for the best. Those things don't tend to work out well, do they? Sadly.
No.
As much as we hear it all the time, and I'm like, oh no, please don't. Like, I know. They're the things when I hear people say, I'm just going to go with the flow, I'm just going to hope for the best, and my pelvic floor starts twitching. I'm like, this is not going to end. Please don't. That's head in the sand. That is head in the sand. Beth, we're going to have to grab a cuppa and do this again soon because we could talk all day. But one take-home message from you to anybody listening, what would it be?
It would be that birth is going to be the arguably biggest day of your life. It's how you step into motherhood. It is a day that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and I would want you to stack the odds in your favor to do everything you can for a calm experience and an experience that makes you feel in control, not based on what type of birth you had, but based on how you feel on the day.
Love that.
That
so
is my
much.
take.
The perfect way to end. Thank you, Beth.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.